Dear followers, you did the right thing by clicking on this video. Why? Because I'm going to show you an attack that will help you win a ton of games. It's called the Calcin attack, and with a name like that, the only thing that comes to mind is a devastating attack. Why is it called the Calcin attack? Well, that's easy because I named it myself. It's that simple. No, it's actually because I saw Magnus Carlsen play it for the first time, and I thought it was spectacular. Look, why is this gambit so good, Chestershire? Are you trying to sell me something? No, seriously. It's such a good gambit or attack. First of all, because it's with the black pieces, and there are fewer of those, right? But the most important thing is that when you see it, your mind is going to be blown. You're going to say, I have no idea what's happening on the board, okay? And that's exactly what your opponent will think when you play it. But you'll already have it under control. Let's get to the action, because I've been talking a lot and I still haven't shown you how to play the Coulson Gambit or the Coulson attack. And you're going to be amazed, just like I was. I'm telling you the truth. Knight to f3, take a look. Knight to c6. We're playing a totally normal game. This is the most played opening in chess. And we keep going, bishop to c4. By far, the most used opening in chess. The Italian opening. Here we have two simple responses, bishop to c5 and knight to f6. Which of the two will we use for the Galson attack? Knight to f6. But a lot of you are afraid of knight to f6 because of the dreaded fried liver attack, this attack right here. Well, the Galson attack happens when someone tries to play the fried liver, the Fegatello attack, alright? It's an attack that, especially if you have less than 2000 elo, you'll see very often. Yeah, you don't see it very often at the elite level, because they know how to punish it. However, only at the elite level. Alright? And check out the attack Carlsen came up with. First, d5, the mandatory move, whether you want to play the gambit or not. Why? Because you have to stop this attack from the bishop and the knight. Right? Right now they're threatening to come in here and win the queen or the rook. Okay? That's why d5, whether you want to play this attack or not, is mandatory. But now, when they capture, be careful. It's a beginner's mistake to capture this pawn with the knight. Then you really would be losing, because they'd hit you with the fried liver attack. I'm showing you this so you don't fall for it. They simply capture this pawn, attacking both the queen and the rook at the same time. So no matter what, we have to capture this knight if we don't want to lose material. And now, they give us this check with the queen, and as soon as we move the king, they'll take this knight. Notice it's a double attack on the king. And on the knight, but we're not going to fall for the fried liver attack, please, chess teacher. I played d5, but when they capture, I'm not going to take here. Instead, I'm going to use the Carlsen attack. Pay attention, okay? I'll show you with this move. There it is, b5. Right now, you're probably thinking, I have no idea what's happening on the board. At this moment, there are so many attacks coming from here and there that I don't know what's going on. You attack me, I attack you, and there are even more attacks. Well, that's exactly what your opponent will be thinking when you play this. Especially in fast games, they're gonna run out of time or make a bad move. Alright, now pay attention to this. There's only one good move here, and I'm telling you, it's impossible. I'll say it again, impossible for you to know it. You'll only get it right if you already know it. That's the only way to find the right move, if you already know it. Pay attention, okay? Alright, I'm gonna give you a challenge. I'm gonna think about the move and then make it. Let's see if anyone gets it right. If anyone does, please let me know in the comments because you're a real genius. The correct move for white, and the only one that works, is bishop to f1. No one, I'm sure no one got it right. Dukash got it right against Magnus Carlsen. I'll show you later. But first, let's see what happens if they don't play bishop to f1. What's the most common thing to do that they don't play it? What's the most normal move here? Sorry, this knight is here, okay? I'm getting a little bit crazy here. They're hitting us with the fried liver attack. I'm sure more than one of you noticed and was getting nervous. Don't worry, I noticed. Live mistakes. It can happen. They're attacking us here. Alright, we played d5. The most common thing is that they capture this pawn. Right? Look. Now they're pinning this knight, which is being attacked by this pawn. We have to capture this pawn. And we have two options. With the knight or with the queen. Notice one thing. Capturing with the knight would be a huge mistake. Why? Because after capturing with the knight, bishop takes knight check, and they'd take our rook. So we're forced to capture this pawn with the queen. And now look at this. This bishop is under attack and has already lost two moves, 1 and 2. That's why the most common and best move for white, if they don't want to waste more time, is to take this knight. Also, the other possible move, if not taking the knight, would be to go back here. Because we're also targeting this square with the queen, do you see? So we're putting on pressure right from the start. Let's look at two unique good moves. This one, which would be way too passive because you'd be wasting a lot of time, and the most logical is to capture this knight. So here we have to take here. The game can continue however you like, castling for example, and now we're going to take advantage of the open lines and gaps we've created to attack with a lot of force. Notice one thing, our queen and our bishop are now perfectly lined up to deliver a checkmate on this square right here by the king. And now the king is in a really bad spot. This knight never wants to come back here because it's very easy to drive away, and then it would be in a pretty tough situation. Notice that if it comes this way, we'd be attacking it again, so it would have to come here. That's why here, the most common move to stop this attack is f3. However, it's still a terrible move that already seems a bit suspicious, right? Because it leaves some really important holes around here. However, what we're going to do first here is take advantage. This knight can't go back here or here, because after the exchanges, we'd simply be winning a pawn and we'd be threatening an almost unstoppable checkmate again, right? So the only move when we play this h6 is to move the knight to h3, right? Now, how do we continue? Do we give this check? Well, no, giving this check is not the best option, okay? But the best option is to attack with the pawns. We have a devastating attack along the diagonal toward the king. We're going to open lines to bring the rook in as well. Take a look at this. What do we want to do on the next move? Open this up here so we can deliver this checkmate. And even if they move the knight, they won't be able to stop it. Because we can simply keep putting on the pressure in many ways. For example, we can push the pawn right away. After the exchanges, we can bring in the rook. Let's suppose, for example, that the opponent plays d3, which is a completely normal move. Well, here we would simply capture this pawn and we'd be winning. So here they have to address the threat. If they take here, we deliver checkmate, right? So they can't capture with the pawn. If they capture with the knight, they'd lose the knight because we'd take with our knight and they couldn't recapture since it would be checkmate. As you can see, the attack is just too overwhelming. If they somehow manage to defend it, it's easy. We bring in the rook and add another rook to the attack. They're probably going to have to give up material, and if you're worried about your king being in the center, you can always castle queenside, and it will be a pretty straightforward position to play. I'm telling you, your king will be very safe castling long. Still, I doubt anyone will hold out long enough for you to need to castle. You'll probably end up checkmating thanks to the pressure from the file and the diagonal. Alright, and if they allow us, for example, take a look. If there's a queen exchange, like I mentioned, we play here and they play something odd like d3 and we capture. If they want to trade queens, we can do it without any problem because our attack is still going to be super strong. We trade queens, no problem. Why? Because now, look at the incredibly powerful diagonal of the bishop and the super strong file of the rook. Check with the rook, they have to move. They can't come here because we would just pin and this knight would be lost, so they have to go here. And simply with the bishop, we would deliver this tremendous and delicious checkmate, since the king can't escape thanks to our rook. So let's review this lightning attack. Knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4. You know, the most popular chess moves, the Italian opening. We play knight to f6 without fear of them playing the fried liver attack. The fried liver attack. We play d5, and when they capture, that's when we launch the Carlsen attack. With this powerful move right here, we attack the bishop, they attack our knight, and what did we just see? Well, first they explained to you that the best move was bishop to f1, which is really hard to spot. But don't worry, I'm going to show you how to play if they go bishop to f1, which maybe happens 1 out of every 100 games, okay? We just saw what happens if they capture this pawn here. We simply recapture with the queen and set up the attack over here, remember? If not, you can watch the video as many times as you need. It's totally free. That's why I'm sharing it with you. Let's see what happens if they play a very popular move as well, which is, well, you attack my bishop and I attack your knight. I take your knight and you take my bishop. What should I do here, Chesterker? Should I take that bishop? Of course, absolutely. If we don't take that bishop, we'd be down a piece. However, has our attack ended, Chesterker? No, the attack is still on. For example, let's continue with any move from the opponent. What matters to us is what we're going to do. First, we want to drive out this knight of our opponent's. If this knight leaves before we drive it out, even better. But if not, we'll drive it out ourselves. Now, if it comes here, look at what a bad move that is. We could directly open up the castling by making this exchange here. We trade a bishop for a knight, and let me tell you, this king won't last long on this open diagonal, on this open file. So this knight has to come here. It doesn't have any other square. And I'm sure all of you are already seeing this move right here. We push the pawn forward to put a lot of pressure. This knight doesn't want to go backward or over here. Here it would get lost, and going back is just too sad. So they try to come to e5 while threatening this pawn. Alright, up to this point, everything is pretty normal. Notice that this might look complicated, but it's actually quite standard. We simply attacked the knight, it had to move. We looked at the other options, but concluded this was the best one. And then, after advancing, we saw again that the best move was to come forward here while attacking this pawn. Are we going to defend it? No? Alright. We're not going to defend that pawn. Instead, we're going to gain the initiative. What's the move to gain the initiative in this position? Well, the move is bishop to e6. An extremely good move, which first attacks this knight, and second, puts pressure on the opponent's castling with an X-ray attack. Pay attention, here the best move, or really the only one that seems to save them, is to capture this pawn here. They win another pawn, 2 pawns up, they attack the bishop, but at this point we're already winning. With an extremely good move that I'm sure all of you have already thought of, which is bishop takes h2. Check. We sacrifice the bishop, the Greek sacrifice, and here, notice that we're already winning. They have to capture this bishop because if they don't, the consequences are exactly the same or even worse, and then we jump in with the knight to give check. Notice something. This knight can't be captured by the queen because we have this bishop that still hasn't moved but is doing a fantastic job defending the knight from its starting position. So check to the king, he only has 4 options, okay? And we're going to look at all of them. If he comes this way, we simply deliver checkmate in 2. Check, and then checkmate. Alright? 1. That's it. That's checkmate. Let's look at this one. We simply do the same thing, bring the queen over, and checkmate is inevitable, because no matter how much they try to escape this way, it's still mate, since the knight is covering this square here. So why do they come here or here? It's checkmate in 2 moves. Now, if they move forward, that move would be a huge blunder. Why? Because it puts itself on the same diagonal as the bishop. Look, and what happens if it ends up on the same diagonal as the bishop? That simply means there are discovered attacks. If we move this knight away, we give a check with the bishop, so we deliver this double check with the knight and the bishop, and we also attack the queen. When the king moves, we can capture the queen. And we'd have an extra queen, totally for free. We would win the game very easily. So we've seen checkmate here, and we win the queen here. What happens if they come here? Which seems like the most critical option. Well, this is the one you need to remember how to play. It's very simple, but you just have to remember the move h5. It's an incredible move. A lot of you might think it's to defend this knight, but it's not. This knight is already defended by the bishop. No matter that it's attacked by 2 pieces, the queen and the king, a bishop is enough to defend it, because if they capture it with the queen, they'd be losing too much value, right? Bishop takes queen, they would win 2 pieces, and we would get a queen, which is much better. So h5 isn't to defend the knight, it's to keep attacking. For example, no matter what they do, right? Whatever they do. If they play, for example, f3, threatening our knight, we simply go with h5. Deliver this check, the king has to move, he cannot capture here because of the bishop, nor here because of the rook. He cannot come here or here because of the knight. The only option is to come here, unless he wants to get into trouble here, which would end in checkmate pretty quickly with the queen probably. So when he comes here, it is as simple as, since we already know what to do when the king is in this position, we just jump with the knight, double check, and when he moves, we simply capture the queen and end up with a queen advantage. So, chess teacher, what should we do? If, when they launch this attack against us, we play Carlsen's attack, which is b5, they respond with the correct move, bishop to f1, Well, that's a great question, and it's good that you ask, because I'm sure there's always some smart aleck who has studied this line and plays bishop to f1. Alright, what you need to do is capture this pawn with the knight. And here you should know that the correct move is to move this bishop again to capture this pawn. Why this silly move of going back and then forward again? Well, let me explain it to you in a very simple way. Do you remember why we didn't want to capture here, or did I already explain why it was bad to capture here? It's very simple, because the queen would come in, attack here, and attack here. This was very dangerous. However, what happens if we first come here and capture with the pawn? Well, now by capturing this one here, we're in the same position, but the queen can no longer come here. However, they've lost a lot of moves, and now look at this. We're actually launching a pretty strong attack, even if it doesn't seem like it. First, we're attacking this knight, which we shouldn't capture. Huge mistake to capture this knight. If we capture here, they capture us, and we're even in material, okay? But they check us and take our work. So yes, it's true, there's a loose knight here that we could capture, but first we need to make an in-between move. Sorry, this always happens to me. An in-between move, and I didn't say it to be funny, I promise. This always happens to me. We have to make an in-between move so we don't lose this rook. So what's the move? This one or this one? Well, the right one is this. See how if you apply the opening principles and don't just use your memory to memorize lines, you remember them better? If you think about how we wanted to attack along this line, it makes much more sense to defend here. This one is much more passive, okay? This bishop doesn't work as well as it does over here. So normally you would bring it over there, and now they can keep attacking us. That's true. Check out what an interesting move this is. They're trying to checkmate us over here. They're trying to capture this knight. Notice that if we come over here, they capture us here and put a lot of pressure on this knight. And they also put pressure here. So what happens then? Let's set this up right. This goes here, this goes here. What happens? The attack from the white pieces is just too strong right now, isn't it? What do we need to do in this position? We have several ideas. The main one I recommend is to defend with queen to d7. That's the main idea, okay? You have to remember, don't take this knight, alright? It's a recommendation. Don't take this knight, because simply, if they've played up to this point with bishop to f1 and all that, they know the line well. Don't take that knight, because you'll probably end up in their territory. We play queen to d7, we defend this knight, we defend against mate, and we're not down any material, alright? Notice, well, we're a pawn down, sure, but that's what gives us this massive attack with the bishop. More development, alright? It's simply a gambit, a pawn for much more initiative, okay? So just play like this. Stay calm. That's what you should do, alright? Don't play into their game. That's my recommendation, okay? For example, let's keep looking at this game. They play knight to c3. They're attacking us here with a lot of pieces, but notice that our pieces are so well placed that we can attack very easily. In this case, check this out. We bring the knight here to deliver this spectacular double attack. We hit a double attack on the king and the rook. And not only that, be careful, because in the future, once this bishop is gone, we can move this knight and launch a discovered attack on the queen. Our pieces are really well placed. How do they defend against this double attack? Well, notice that in this game, they do it with the bishop. It makes a lot of sense. They keep this bishop on the same diagonal as the queen and king, and come to defend the square, which was a double attack with the knight on the king and rook. Importantly, this knight is bothering us here, right? Let's drive it out. Where can it go? Well, the most normal move is for it to come here. It could come here, but that would be way too passive, right? So this e4 square looks much more tempting. What did I explain to you? Where are we going to castle? Kingside or queenside? Normally we'll castle queenside. Why? We place this rook on a file where it can put pressure with the queen, and we have a clear path to attack on this flank with the rook. Alright. White does the same thing we did, attacking this knight, and attacks ours, since it's really annoying. You just move back here, it's on a good square and nothing happens. If this knight is captured, we recapture with the queen. Absolutely nothing happens. Also, they've actually helped us a bit here because we're no longer pinned by the bishop. It's true that in this game, very cleverly, the white pieces place their bishop attacking the queen again. The queen has to move back to a square where she also protects this pawn, even though it's attacked by two pieces and can't be defended very strongly. But it's not a big deal because we're not too worried about them taking this pawn. Besides, they'd actually be opening lines for us to attack the king with our rooks. Sometimes it's more important not to take a pawn, because we know that taking it would actually make things even worse for us, right? The white pieces, well, they move the bishop back here to attack the queen again. See, what did I tell you? We've castled long, so we can attack on the king side. Look at what a beautiful attack this is, huh? If you're enjoying this, please. Now you're going to see how it ends because we're almost finished. I hope you're enjoying it, okay? Leave me a nice like. We attack this knight here. It has to retreat, so it moves back here to protect its king when it castles. We push our pawn here. Look at our position. It's fantastic, even though we're down a pawn. They try to open up the bishop, but it doesn't have much of a future, you see. It can't go anywhere. We bring our queen here, placing it on the same diagonal as the king. They block with the knight before it's too late, but notice how well coordinated our pieces are. We jump with the knight to to d4, and now this knight is exerting tremendous pressure. It attacks the queen and also the knight that was defending the pin on the king. Well, they have to capture here before it's too late, but now we bring in the rook, and the attack is just too strong. They attack our queen again. Well, they can be as annoying as they want because check out this move right here. You're gonna be amazed, and that's why I chose this game. The move black played here was queen takes bishop, giving away the queen. Spectacular. Why? Because look, now we can capture theirs. After the capture, we can take theirs with the bishop, and we're in such a good position. They have two double pawns here, two double pawns there, an isolated pawn that's being attacked by the rook, so we're in an extremely favorable position. We recovered the pawn we were down and launch a double attack. This game is already going in favor of the black pieces. They defend against one pawn but can't protect the other, which is why the black pieces are starting to gain too much initiative. White no longer knows what to do, so they castle long to protect this pawn. The black pieces push their pawn to protect the rook, and when it's attacked by the king, they defend it with the pawn. Look at what a beautiful battle this is. White brings the rook here to try to force some exchanges, which is fine for black. Nothing at all happens. I'm going to win the endgame. Nothing at all happens, and now I also bring my king in. They come in with the rook, develop the bishop that they still hadn't developed, bring the rook over here to attack this pawn, and I simply defend it. I don't attack. One more important pawn is this one down here, which they have to defend. Now we defend it before they capture this pawn here. They bring the bishop over here, taking advantage of the fact that they haven't taken here to push the pawn, trying to attack a lot, but nothing at all happens. They bring in the king, capture here. It looks like we lose a pawn, but we're not worried. We're not worried about losing this pawn, because if they come this way, we could trap the bishop, and this bishop would be almost useless. It's much better over here. So black isn't worried, and brings in the king. You already know how important the king is in endgames. Sorry, first white plays, then black plays, and now yes, this bishop tries to go on the attack. They're simply trying to win that 3 versus 2, which is really a 3 versus 1.5 because black's pawns are doubled. After the capture, there's an in-between move. Now I said it right. e4 check. The king has to move, and look at this great position for black. After this move and this one here, white resigned, because black would simply capture en passant, and this pawn would be too close to queening. Or they might even capture this one first and be very close to winning. Notice in this game that white played the correct move, but even so, why am I showing it? Because it's not hard to put pressure with black and make the right move. A Carlsen attack that really fascinated me. I hope it did the same for you. I really appreciate it so much, honestly. You have no idea how much it means if you leave me a like, a comment, or subscribe to the channel. Really, thank you. You have no idea how much you help me. If you do, I'll be grateful forever. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it, and I'll see you in the next one, friends. Goodbye.